Mchina with us today. He's joining us from Paris. Neville has many years experience in the agriculture and agribusiness sector. He's the director of FruitCon, and I'm very happy that he's with us today. Thank you for joining,
Happy
Neville.
to be here. Thank you very
Yes,
much, Sophie, and really, really honored to be here and joining in with your viewers.
perfect. Neville, maybe for everyone to get to know you a little bit, can you say some words about yourself and your work and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. As you already mentioned, I am director of FruitCon and also founder. And what we do basically, to make it simple, is we are trading consultants. So we help farmers and exporters in developing countries who have the potential to export. And we sort of point them in the right direction where they need to invest in, what the market specifications are, and then we also do on the back end the linkage directly to clients on the EU market, so that they are not just investing and then hoping to be able to sell on the market, but then they can invest and then have a secure market at the same time. So
Thanks.
that's what I do.
Perfect. I think it's very important and valid work. I mean, we all eat, so we're all kind of linked indirectly to the agriculture sector and the food. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and also how did you choose the agri business sector, or maybe did it choose you? What was the journey there?
I think it more of chose me than I chose it. So I definitely started on my journey on the wrong path. First, just after high school, I studied law, and I thought that that's the direction I wanted to go. 2.5 years later, and a couple of fails and hating it, I decided, to change my path. And in the end, I didn't even know what to study. And then I just randomly applied to a couple of universities, got accepted in Germany for agribusiness, which I thought, okay, fine, makes sense. I don't know what to study now, so like, let me just find myself. And then it made a lot of sense, and I loved it completely. And then I sort of, we managed to do quite a lot of projects for different companies while I was in university. And then I was working on a startup towards my last year of uni, and my mentor somehow linked me up to the CEO of Europe's biggest organic trader, EOSTA. And I went for an interview there, and then I got started, and that was really the beginning of my journey. And I mean, ever since I started doing agribusiness, I literally just fell in love with it, yeah, it's what has led me to being here, basically.
Nice. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
So I think with your work at the moment, you are based in Paris, but you're working
Yeah.
globally. Can you tell us a bit more about how your involvement is in Africa also, and
Hmm. Hmm.
what the status is there of the organic sector, but then maybe also where do you see opportunities at large, and
Hmm.
yeah, the status quo, but also where do you think things are going in the future?
Yeah, well, that's a lot of questions in the same one, eh? But yes, my involvement with Africa, basically, when I started my career in the entire agribusiness sector, I was hired to start working with some Kenyan small-scale farmers and try and get organic Kenyan avocado to be exported to the EU market, and at the same level as South America was already doing, because at that point everyone knew about Mexican avocados and Peruvian avocados, but Kenyan organic avocados were not on the market. And this was quite a huge task because, back in Africa, we don't have, and I'm saying Africa at large as an African, but we really have more of small scale and smallholder farmers than we have huge, large scale farms. And so that makes it quite challenging, especially in terms of like regulating the quality, because a large scale farmer knows exactly what they're doing on their entire farm. But if you have 100 different farmers that are all working independently and it's not coordinated, that means you get different qualities of food from each of the different ones. Yet they are all supposed to go in the same box. So this was my first challenge, and I managed to do it quite well. And that was basically for me the awakening, because I realized that it was possible. And I mean, today, from the suppliers that I worked with and that I helped to elevate to that level, Europe is receiving about 200 tons per week of avocados. And it showed me that it was actually possible, and this is a model that we can replicate in different countries. So it triggered me to try out with Zimbabwe, which is my home country. And we have now a project for organic pineapples that we're working on in the eastern highlands of Zimbabwe. And, that project is going great. We face some challenges in between, which I'll talk about later. And then, from there, that was the spin off to doing some work in the Dominican Republic and doing some work in Uzbekistan, and then realizing that this is actually a real global challenge. And you can actually pick out from lessons that were done in different countries, and you can apply them to the African context, and it will work. So basically now we have in the pipeline a couple of projects in different countries as well. And, we are just, the point is we're just trying to help African farmers get their product onto the EU market, because there is a lot of chances, and I will talk a bit more about like the different chances that we have, looking at the current trends on the agribusiness sector as well.
Perfect. I mean, AfroLink. So as an organization, we work basically linking the different ecosystems between Europe and Germany and the African continent. So we work with a lot of young people and a lot of talented young people. So what kind of advice would you, or where do you see opportunities for young people coming into the sector? I mean, you are working as a trader, of course, there's a lot of opportunities there, but the sector itself is very big. So besides your work, where do you see is opportunities?
Well, first of all, you would need to sort of look at, like, I think you had asked it before, like the different opportunities that are available in the food sector at large. So I basically see four huge opportunities. And the first one is, the trend of people starting to see food as medicine. So, like there is a huge fire up in the EU, and then also in the US, for people looking for, superfoods, super grains, natural foods, organic. So that's already like the first thing. So you put a pin on that one. The second thing is, the world is becoming a global village. A lot of people have traveled a lot, and, they've tasted different foods. And once you've tasted, let's say, a mango at home in Zimbabwe or in Kenya or in Senegal or Ivory Coast, you know how good that is. And once you come back to Europe, you're thinking, oh man, I really missed that. And so people are starting to pay for this, and that's the other thing. And the third is, like a growing social consciousness and the demand for impact food. And like people want to buy food that is definitely making an impact. We're more informed about all the, the really bad things that have been happening in food supply chains. And the fourth one is the search for alternatives. Now, like alternatives being, a lot of people are now going for vegan or paleo diets and all these kind of things. So that when you look at these four different trends, you see how much they favor Africa, because we have, for the longest time, we didn't have enough money to buy all the fertilizers and throw onto our fields, for example, especially if you go to the rural areas. So a lot of our arable land is naturally organic or organic by default. So there is an opportunity there for young people to actually start going back to the rural areas where your parents came from, and start taking the commercial side of growing fruits, whether it's a mango, whether it's an avocado, whether it's pineapples, jackfruit, because, like all these things are now coming back in. When you look at baobab, for example, that is also one of the fruits that is indigenous to Africa, all over Africa, and it's just been growing anywhere and everywhere, and no one has done anything with it. But now we've discovered it's a superfood. There's something you can do there. Try different recipes, make drinks out of it, make cakes out of it. It doesn't matter. Just try it out and try and bring them to the market. And then there's also a lot for IT, bringing in services that will help farmers, for example, making information easily accessible, because that's one of the biggest things that we have as a problem, that a lot of our small scale farmers in Africa do not have access to information, and IT can make that possible, especially in this very smart generation as well. So yeah, it's endless. I could keep going on about it.
Okay, great. Then maybe also for startups that we're working with or in our ecosystem, a lot of them are working either with tech solutions or in with startups that definitely work on like some form of technology as part of their business. So where do you see in terms of the agri and food sector? You mentioned the food, like access to information is one. Is that do you feel like, are there any niches more in specific where you feel like, okay, innovation is actually really needed to bring a sector forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, okay, for anyone who's working in the IT sector, I think, the one huge statement that I also strongly believe in is the fact that data is the new gold, right?
Mhm.
So whatever you're doing, let's get that data. So that's the strong fundamental basis. Now, the second thing is we need to get, like I said, relevant information out to farmers. So one of the things that I learned about how, if you want to get a group of small scale farmers to be able to farm with uniform quality at a level that you could possibly do with one large scale farmer, the way that you can do it is by having like a farmer profile system. So, like where you have one, call it a social network for farmers, right? Where everyone is there, and if they're all growing the same fruits, you want them to share information, like have FAQs. Okay, what I'm having these challenges on my avocado tree. Does anyone know anything about this? And let them share all of that information. So, we need solutions like that. We need solutions that can get us the data from the field. So, for example, how much groundwater do we have? Can we scan that from satellite images? Can we use drones or something to be able to map out exactly what nutrients are needed on which part of the farm, etc. These are all things that we can get into. Diagnosing plants, using a photo. Let me be able to take a picture of a leaf and upload it, and in the database somewhere I get something that says, oh, that disease is Phytophthora or something, whatever. Like this is the kind of stuff that we need, this data, because data allows us to be able to make an informed decision and an informed change. So that's one of the things that we need. We need marketplaces that can link the farmer directly to the consumer. A lot of farmers across the African continent are broke and struggling to survive simply because they are wasting a lot of food that is not fit for the market. And none of us knows this. We're sitting at home, we don't know that this is happening. But, farmers are losing more than 50% of their product because, it can't go to the market because God knows who, they just don't have the access. So if you make marketplaces that can link these two, then we're already talking about making a huge difference and sending money straight back to our people, and investment platforms as well. That's something else. I mean, I am willing to partner up with someone who can create an investment platform that we can use, to invest in impact projects across the African continent that have a good and solid business case. We will find the solid business cases in the projects. We need just an IT person who will be able to create the platform, So yeah, there's abundant opportunity, I would say.
Great. I mean, I think
Yeah.
definitely also this is something we've, as AfroLink, are working on. I mean, I think that's a feedback we get a lot of the times that, access to finance is of course crucial. It's not everything, and we have a dedicated tech team, so I think we would be very open to team up with you
Yeah.
on something similar like
No,
that.
that would
Yeah.
be great. And I think we need to
And
team up with the diaspora as well, because I think, our people should also be willing, like the diaspora that's outside of Africa are interested in investing on the African continent. That would be nice. Yeah, cool.
great, nice. We have Kumbirai. He's saying important for young African entrepreneurs. Data is the new gold. Honorable John Mutende, your fellow agriculture champion. Yes,
Oh,
thanks, Kumbirai.
nice.
I think we have a friend or companion of yours, Marianne. She says my favorite Zim Neville, yay.
Oh,
And
thank
we
you.
have Marianne saying hi as well. Yes. No, I think what you're saying, it's very important messages. I hope it gets out to a lot
Yeah,
of people because definitely there's a lot of opportunities in that. Um,
absolutely. No.
Maybe can you level, I mean, beyond the opportunities that we see. I mean, at the moment, times are very, very different from the usual. So can you maybe also speak a little bit about how the current crisis, I mean, which is affecting our economies and our private lives a lot, but then also what are the implications that you feel or see on the agriculture and food sector? Yeah.
Well, in all honesty, it's we're in a really tough situation. But if you sort of just distance yourself a little bit and you take another set of glasses, you actually realize that this is an even more crucial time for us as Africans and as the African continent to be able to step onto the global arena. And because, with pandemics like these, that we don't know how many are going to come in the future, but we've already seen this and this is happening. One of the most important things is just to have a solid immune system. So then this means that the demand for very healthy food is going to increase. One of the things that we have seen in the market over the last couple of weeks is, ever since all the lockdowns started, is the fact that demand for healthy food increased a lot, and this is something that shows you the opportunity that we have. And so that means that we need to get our baobab products in check. We need to get our tamarind products in check. We need to get, our ginger onto the EU market. We have so many products on. We need to tap into let's tap into our old wisdom, because our ancestors knew about these things. So if you go and you sit down with your grandmother or with your aunt, she'll tell you, oh, when I had a stomachache, I used this. When I got a flu, I used this. Now we need to tap into those things, innovate them a little, give them a new modern twist, and then put them on the market, because healthy food and natural food is the way to go going forward. There's a lot of distrust for big pharma. And the other thing is, like, the entire social distancing has made it quite relatively difficult for people to be in touch with one another. And this is why all these tech solutions are really going to be important. So creating online marketplaces. Look, the one thing I love about agriculture is that, it's a primary sector on which you can spin off and create jobs in the services sectors, and that can create even more jobs for IT, for accounting, for whatever. And so if we can start manufacturing our food really well for our own people and being able to deliver it to our people as well, then we can start creating jobs as delivery people, for example. I'm just throwing out all the random things. But if we take our time and we look at, and we really analyze this situation, then, we will be able to harness a lot of different opportunities due to the corona. And yeah, this it's possible.
And then also maybe touching upon what you just said, you are working a lot with like trading in between continents, including Africa and Europe. And I think especially for the organic export market, that is the big market. But in general, where do you also see other opportunities in terms of like local markets, but also I think like regional markets, cross-African trade, and what is your views on that?
Well, I think I always say in order to be able to build a successful agribusiness, you need three markets. You need the first one being your local market, and then you need a regional market, and then you need an export faraway market. Why the export faraway market is going to give you, they will want the most demanding quality, but they will give you the best prices. And then when you come back a little bit, then the regional market is going to be able to facilitate for extra exports that you can do, and the local market is your anchor. Now, for us, which is very randomly, I'll just tell you a quick story. 3 years ago, I was at a conference that was supposed to be for Zimbabwe, and I had already started working on my organic pineapple project. And one of the people that was there was the managing director of Spar supermarket in Zimbabwe. And, like when someone mentioned that Neville is doing organic pineapples in Zimbabwe, he looked at me like, oh, what? And then he comes up and then he says, hey, listen, Spar has been importing pineapples from South Africa for the last 15 years. And it was like, to me, it's so random. Like, how is that even possible? I mean, there's pineapples in Zimbabwe. But what you do find is that in a lot of our African countries, the market is not united. So there is no knowledge about where things are being grown, so people will only get in touch with what they're exposed to. So if they hear that pineapples are coming from South Africa, they'll buy them from South Africa instead of buying them locally. And because of that, local pineapples, like in Zimbabwe, in December I was there. So I come from our fields and I know exactly how much we are producing them for and how much we can sell for. And then I go to the supermarket and the supermarket is selling them 30 times more expensive. Why? Because they're coming from South Africa. Right? So that means we need to integrate our markets. We need to integrate information. And this is where IT is really, really, really so solid, because IT brings things out there. It brings the hidden data out into the open. And through that, we can tap into it. So again, just to reinforce, local market is really, really important, because where else do you sell all the stuff that you can't export? And regional markets, this is something that's also really important, because a lot of African countries are importing even from Europe. It's crazy to hear that garlic is being imported from Europe to Africa, when we can produce it for ourselves and make it even easier. So, I think, we need to work on these things.
We have Kibiti saying hi from South Africa. And I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with trade between Zimbabwe and South Africa, no? I think trade is important, but cross-country trade on the continent is very important as well.
Absolutely.
So, Neville, you just said that you would like to invest in startups, or you see a lot of opportunities. Maybe could you say, if you would make one kind of investment at the moment, what is the kind of startup profile that you would invest in?
Wow. So right now. Okay. That's a really difficult one, because I could easily tell you 3 kinds of startups that I would invest in right now. But if you're limiting it to one.
But 3 is great. Tell us the 3.
Okay, no, well, three. Okay, if I can mention three, then I can tell you. Number one, I would, I'm looking and would love to partner up with an agribusiness investment fund, and create this investment platform alongside it, this IT investment platform where we can, quickly identify, create a map across the African continent. Okay, those are the products where we need them there, and there's a couple of people that we can work with, and you spin that off and you channel the funds in there. That's the one thing that I would invest in. The second one is a form of, I want to call it the black pages. Everyone knows the concept of the yellow pages. So, it's just like, at the back of the newspaper, there's always that little place where, there's everything that's being sold. I would love to create a network for all Africans locally and also in the diaspora, as well as their businesses. Because, I feel that we can only create our own culture, and we can only teach each other lessons if we are all connected to each other. Everyone is scared about, oh, now moving forward is neo-colonization coming forward, etc., etc. I strongly believe that as the Black community or the African community worldwide, we have sufficient resources to build ourselves up. So starting from agriculture to, you name all the different sectors. This is something that would be really, really key. I really want to invest and build into something like this because back in the days in the US, they had it. One of the times that the Black community thrived in the US was when they had this green book where you knew exactly which black businesses you could buy stuff from. Different races do that, and I think that's important for us to do that. But we need to do it on a global scale and not just on a on like local African scale or just diaspora in Germany or that. We need to do it globally. That's the second one. And yeah, I think the third one that I would definitely invest in is a social media platform for farmers where they can really share information.
Nice one.
We need that.
Great.
Farmers are dying for this. Yeah.
Very good ideas out there. And Neville, maybe quickly, can you say a little bit, about what kind of projects I think you are involved in at the moment beyond your work at FoodCon?
Yeah. Yeah. So as I mentioned before, we have a company in Zimbabwe, so Greenstone Foods, and this is in cooperation with small-scale organic pineapple farmers. So at the moment we have about 50. Because we want to bring the Zimbabwean pineapple onto the Zimbabwean market, and then also onto the EU market. We got funding from the Dutch government for that to get some organic certification, and we were supposed to get it last year, and then Cyclone Idai hit. And Cyclone Idai was one of the biggest cyclones that that the Southern Hemisphere has seen in ages. And actually, our farmers were right in the epicenter of this, in the Rusizi Valley. So, okay, so that's the one thing. So actually, the Cyclone Idai, it brought a spin-off to Project Greenstone, which is the second thing that I'm involved in, and that's an impact cluster of 12 Dutch companies, so companies from the Netherlands, and these companies are involved in supplying disaster-proof housing, sanitation, solar energy, etc. And we are working now on reconstructing that village the pineapple farming village, and supplying enabling infrastructure, so a new packing house, good roads, all the different services surrounding that, so that they can be able to sustain themselves, to enable them to export and then earn money that they can use to reinvest for themselves. And I mean, take note, it's a village, so they normally live off the grid completely. So that's the second project that I'm involved in. And the third one is, I mean, of course, yeah, with the COVID-19, it's a very dire situation. And again, coming from Zimbabwe, soon after the COVID was hitting and we had our first cases, then you immediately heard doctors were complaining that they didn't have protective clothing, etc. So a friend of mine and I started a campaign which is called We Give to Care. And we're doing this in conjunction with Red Cross and a Starter Station, sorry. And we are aiming to raise funds for healthcare workers across the African continent. So if you go on our campaign website, www.wegivetocare.com, you can also select the country that you want your funds to be directed to, because this is an Africa-wide, and this will be an Africa-wide problem. So we need to make sure that our brothers and sisters across every single border on that continent are covered. So yeah, this is what we're doing. And something else that we're working on in the pipeline is no, I can't reveal this one yet.
I hope that we will be able to share the link. Yeah, it's here.
Yeah.
And then also I want to encourage everybody who's watching, please, if you have any questions or comments to what Neville is saying or the information he's sharing, please engage with us. Like, that's what we're here for, to answer questions as well. Yes.
Yeah.
And then Neville, earlier, I think also what you've been describing now, it's very clear that partnerships and having collaborators and supporters around you is very crucial, no? Like, especially as a young person moving forward. Tell us a little bit, like, well, how was the process for you of engagement there? Like, what was important milestones along your way? Who were the people that really supported you, and how?
Yeah, well, I would like to say, like one of the most important lessons that I learned getting started with my career, and it was the first real work tip that I had, and I basically realized that you need to stay relevant. So then that means, consistently reinventing yourself. And by consistently, that means, if it's not every day, then it's every week. If it's not every week, then it's every month. But, keep changing your style in order for you to be able to stay relevant. Because, the problem is we try to standardize things and try to have like one straight line. Okay, this is the formula that works all the time. That's not true, because next time that formula might not work. So, try to stay relevant. And the person who helped me with this actually was my former boss, Sander Dijkslag, at a company called Eosta that I was working for. And he consistently kept on encouraging me and pushing me to always think out of the box. Okay, Neville, but what is your next move? But you're no longer relevant to this problem if you're just sticking to that same methodology. How can you stay relevant? So that was one of the major learnings for me as a person. And the second one was always, and this one will remain, it's the Nike slogan, just do it. Why? Because a lot of times we're always second guessing ourselves on several things. We try to think ahead so that we can plan, but what actually happens is that we scare ourselves in the thinking ahead, and then we think of all these different scenarios. and none of them is reality. So you really don't know what's going to happen anyways. So might as well just take the first step, take a risk, just go, and keep going every single day. Just keep going. Yeah, you have nothing to lose. If if anything happens, you'll remain at the same level that you are at today. If anything positive happens, then you are even a step further. So just do it. It doesn't matter what comes your way, and surrender the outcome, let go. And this is one of the things that my mentor, Paul Quarters, taught me, because he moved from the private sector and he became a Zen master. And this is one of the things that he completely started trying to teach me, and that's the fact that we are not in control at all. So and I think the COVID is also one really good example of this. When 2020 started, everyone was like, yay, we're on it, my year, everything, and March comes and everyone is stuck at home, and we don't even know anything, what we can do. We don't know what tomorrow is going to hold. And so for me, like, these are, I have to say, like, the three things that I've always kept, or that I keep consistently close to me. And I don't want to say I learned these lessons back then and so now I'm good. No, I'm relearning these lessons every single day. I always have to remind myself, hey, Neville, you're not in control. So just go. So this would be my encouragement from my journey and my lesson, the lessons that I've learned, is just to say, guys, like, whatever you want to do, if your heart is burning for it, then just go for it. You don't know what's going to come in the end, but you just hope for the best and you just keep pushing. But stay relevant, just do it, and surrender the outcome.
Great. I mean, I think that's very, very encouraging remarks, and I think that's valid for all of us, especially right now. Yeah, never. I mean, I hope that this is not the last time that we see you, and I think also with a big passion for agriculture myself, I definitely think there's a lot of opportunity, and I think I'm very hopeful that also this kind of like dusty image that the agri sector has at the moment, as something seen as very backward. I really hope that we get away from that and that we see there's a lot of opportunities, especially like on a very young continent as Africa, which basically has all the preconditions to really like be at the forefront of like the global food supply chains. And yeah, I think the work is very great, and I think it's very encouraging, and I'm very happy to see a lot more young people like you be in the sector. Yes.
Yeah. No, and I think you're really, sorry, just to cut you off on that one. I think you're really touching on something that's so crucial, and that's the fact that young people need to be involved in agriculture. And it's so understandable why we are not really wired to that, because if you look at Africa's history from where we come from, like, our parents, they associated farming with being a worker on the farm. So, the hard, intense labor and the low wages, et cetera, et cetera. But they didn't realize that behind it was a more complex thing, because this is one of the most secure businesses in the world, basically, because everyone will always need to eat. Hell, high
Absolutely.
water, people need to eat. So, like, that is one of the most sure businesses that you can really enter into. So, and when you look on the African continent, the average farmer is around 65. So, and that's quite worrying, because then you're asking yourself, okay, then who's coming in to take the place? Do we want big corporations to come and buy the lands of our fathers, and then we don't have access to that wealth anymore? No. Let's get into that stuff. This is the age, this is the time. Through agriculture, we will create jobs for our people. We will empower, kids. We will, build livelihoods in small villages and in big villages and then in cities. We will create opportunities for accountant graduates, and it's endless. Agriculture is basically one of the sources and the heart of how we can build the African economy. And this is why I took that from what you were saying, and I just wanted to throw it out there. Like, young people, let's get into agriculture. It's the present, it's the future, it's always going to be the future. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, we have Kibita saying, well done, Neville. Opened up possibility on agriculture and its value chain, IT, new markets, collaborations.
Oh, thank
And
you.
then we
Thank you,
also say,
Kibita.
through agriculture, we will empower our people, create jobs, and build the African economy. Very good. Perfect.
Absolutely, absolutely. Are there any questions, by the way, from anyone who has a question?
Are there any questions? I mean, I have a lot more, but also we want to open the floor.
Yeah.
So, Neville, how can people who've been watching now, maybe they didn't post the question, maybe they got inspired by what you're saying? How can they reach out to you? How can they get in touch with you?
Get in touch. My email or my LinkedIn. Well, if you go on our website, so www.fruitcon.com, you will have a link there that will take you to my LinkedIn profile, and also that you can send me a direct email from there. And also on our other websites, www.greenstonefoods.org. You will also find again the link to my my LinkedIn profile, and also on an email directly. And then, of course, you can find me on Instagram or Facebook. Be careful with Facebook. I don't really check it that much. So
We will share.
yeah, but email is the best.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, we have Marianne. She's asking, if it is not too political, what is your opinion on China's influence on the continent?
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting, China's influence, but okay, wait. Let me start from here. Let me just be frank with it. Okay. Anyone who wants to come on the African continent is coming in the name of their own interests. So China is coming to Africa in the name of Chinese interests. We can't blame them for that. They're just seeing an opportunity. Um, but what that means, we can hate it, we can love it. It's going to happen anyways, because Europe is also coming to Africa. They've been in Africa in the name of their own interests. So we can hate it, or we can love it, or we can also do something about it ourselves. And that means we as Africans have to have an interest in our own continent. Um, and so, this message then goes out to everyone, so the African locals and to the African diaspora, because everyone always talks about, oh yeah, the problem with Africa is that we've had a brain drain, so we've lost our best brains and ha ha ha. But I don't necessarily see that as a problem. I think we just need to, again, you just need to switch position and change the lens, and then you realize that we have a brain gain. So the brain gain comes in from the fact that you have a whole bunch of soldiers that are out there, that are in China, that are in Europe, that are in the US. They are seeing how industries are working. They are studying, I don't know, from investment to marketing and communications to IT, whatever. So you're gaining that exposure, and you know how back home is and what opportunities are there, and you understand the culture of back home. So then that means you can take that and bring it back, and we can be the ones that develop the interest in our own continent. This way, we can shut out the business opportunities that we're giving away to the Chinese and to the Europeans and to the Americans. You know, we can shut them out by having those business interests ourselves. And this is why I mentioned earlier that I'd love to build a network of Africans on the local continent and in the diaspora, because that way we trigger all Black or all African businesses worldwide to start coming back to invest into the continent. And then that way we don't talk about China, we talk about ourselves reinvesting in our own continent.
Thanks. And I mean, also from speaking from the perspective of AfroLink, I think also that's where we see ourselves, no, and the need of kind of trying to bridge what is good on both sides. I mean, you talked about the talent that is out there, but then also there's a new generation of people on the continent who are really like at the forefront of all new kind of technologies, IT sector, and there's a lot of brain that is being kind of nurtured on the ground as well. Like the internet makes it possible for people worldwide to connect. So yeah, I think collaboration is definitely key. And then we also saying just touch on logistics, keeping the product quality and extended markets. So yeah, supply chain. What can you say on that?
Oh wow, nice. Yeah, that's really that's one of the biggest challenges that we have on the continent. If we're talking about our small scale farmers, you know exactly what she was just mentioning, and you know we need more people like her who can be able to teach more and give that information to our farmers, because that's the information the farmers need. Yeah. And I'm really happy, by the way, about the work that you as AfroLink are doing, because this is what we need. We need that linkage. We need that combination, combining forces of our African brains, the ones that are on the continent, combining that with the African brains that are off the continent to create a synergy and create something big. I'm so proud of what you guys are doing, and yeah, you guys need to keep it up. And I hope we can collaborate as well.
Absolutely, I'd be very happy. And then also we have AfroLink saying young people want to farm but do not have implements and resources. What can they do? And are there any funding opportunities that you know of?
There are funding opportunities that I do know of right now, also in the NGO sector, because we work quite a lot with NGOs. So we've done quite a number of projects for the UN and a couple of other organizations. And there are quite a number of European and American funds that are directly aimed at developing farming projects on the African continent. Cole ACP is an EU funded program, and they focus on Africa. They have a 25 million euro facility that focuses on Africa, the Caribbean, and the Pacific, in order to make products coming from Africa fit the European market. So, you know, there are a lot of funding opportunities, but you need to, of course, you know, stage your applications in their language, and they do take a long time also. You know, it's not that, you know, the funding comes like that. Sometimes it takes 6 months, sometimes it takes a year until you get the funding. But yeah, the advice that I would give is start exactly where you are. Start small. Take the next step from there. If you want to know about farming and you're wondering whether you have and you don't have a farm yet, then start in your garden. You know, start on the little tray that you have and start taking care of a couple of plants, because if you can do that well, then you can scale it up to a bigger garden, and then it can become a farm. And along each way, you will find a door, and it will lead you to the next door and to the next door and to the next door. You know, this is it. So I'm just giving you round advice because I can't give you details. But if you really would like to have more advice in detail about exactly how and where to start, please get in touch. Let's get in touch and let's see how we can do this.
Great. Yeah. Thanks a lot. I hope that answered your question. If not, we're still here. You can still post some more if you want. And then Moses is saying, yes, it is not that easy to get the funding, but can be easy to get customers and clients.
Yeah. Yes. And that's really that's where it is, because also this kind of funding is basically following whether there is a business case. So then that means, is there someone who's actually willing to pay for that product? Because once you have someone who's willing to pay for that product, then you can find the funding from anywhere. You can go to a bank, you can apply for a grant, you can apply for a loan, you can get in touch with your relatives and ask for a loan. But there are clients, and if you'd like to talk about clients, also get in touch. That's something that that's our job. We facilitate this kind of work. We connect people with supply to the clients as well, and we also help them figure out the client's specifications, because that's the most important thing. Otherwise, you lose money by not meeting the market specifications. But please get in touch. We can help.
Great. Is there anything right now that you would say this is kind of what we need, what we're looking for at the moment? We see a great demand from our clients that we can't cater.
Yeah, avocados.
Avocado.
The green gold avocado.
Great hunger for
avocado.
I'm guilty.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, no, honestly, avocado is now a huge thing. Mango, also from Africa, everyone is looking for mangoes. Passion fruit is becoming one of the big hot things on the market as well. Sweet potatoes, it's crazy, like for example in Europe, people are literally replacing normal potatoes with sweet potatoes because they're healthier and they're more, so sweet potatoes is one hot item. Butternut pumpkin, so the one with the weird shape, that is also becoming hot. Like there's a bit of there is a wide spectrum of things that are relevant for the market right now. And if you get in touch, we will be able to advise you which ones you can plant first, because you need to have short-term income, medium-term income, and then long-term income. Otherwise, it will discourage you. If I tell you to start planting avocados right now and you'll get your money in 5 years, that's that's not going to happen. So, you want to start planting your avocados right now for the next 5 years, but then you also want to think about sweet potato, because you'll get money in the next 6 months, and butternut, because you'll get money in the next 6 months. Passion fruit, you'll get money in the next 12 months. So this is basically how we can help you to sort of also access and enter the market.
Yeah, I think it definitely crop diversity, looking at different time spans, but then also looking at different markets. So you can cater some need on the local market, maybe on the regional, then you also have something else for export on the long run. So that's
absolutely.
we have Kibiti saying, first of, do you think agroponics provide added advantage for scale, or traditional farming is advocated? And then the second question, do you think for the broader inter-African markets, we need more of dried products for increased shelf life? So first question on agroponics and second.
Exactly. So agroponics, I think it's a great idea. Learned a little bit about it when I was studying, etc. But my only problem with it is, for the African context, where we already have fertile lands, we do get our rains. We only need to work on maybe certain, irrigation pumps and whatnot. Those require less of an investment than getting into agroponics. It's a completely complicated, technical, So my opinion is, let's start off with normal on the field agriculture, and then we can graduate ourselves to agroponics and all this kind of stuff. So the second one, dried fruit, yes. Absolutely, 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 yes. We need dried fruits. Because, when you like we need to, dried fruits are one of the value additions that help us give farmers back, first of all, more money, because what they would have thrown away, we take and we cut and we dry. For consumers, it is a huge advantage because we can actually take away our kids away from the sugar addiction. Kids are eating candy. Why should they be eating candy when they can eat something healthy and tastes just as good, which is dried fruit? If you've tried a dried mango or try a dried pineapple, it will wow you, like, whoa, this is amazing, and it's natural. um, it prolongs shelf life. So then that means, you can actually, if for example, if I had a bag of, I don't know, dried pineapple in my house right now during Corona times, and I took a nibble every day, that means I'm having my daily fruit dosage, but it's dried, So then that solves also an issue for, what are we talking about? The issues that we have on the African continent: starvation, malnutrition, all these things. Why aren't we drying our products, whether it's vegetables or fruits, and giving to people? Because that completely makes a huge difference. It's cheap, and it's just better. We need to eat healthy. Let's get away from all the junk and start eating the proper stuff. So, yes, for intercontinental trade as well, it is amazing because logistics wise, it's not that complicated. You're not paying for cooled, controlled atmosphere spaces or a container or whatever, or a truck. You're just sending it as dry, and it gets there in good condition. So I think dried fruit is definitely a winner. That's one of the biggest things that our African governments need to be investing in for agriculture, for sure.
Okay, very interesting
Yeah.
to hear. Thank you, Neville. I think, I mean,
Thank
it's a lot
you.
of important and relevant information you shared. I hope it's not the last time. I don't know if you have anything else that you want to share with our audience.
Um, well, no, well, with our audience, I just wanted to say again, guys, let's get into agriculture. Encourage yourselves, encourage your kids to get into agriculture. This is where the future is for our continent. We need to start there, and then we will build up on the rest. And I also hope this is not the last time that we see each other. For sure. I would really love to work and collaborate with AfroLink, because you guys are doing such amazing work, and it's really, really encouraging to see what you're doing. Moses Akia is one of the people that, as a young African in Europe, I look up to, because it's like, wow, how did you achieve so much greatness? So I'm looking forward to working more and more with you guys. And for anyone who would like to know a little bit more about the agricultural sector, or would like to start somewhere in the agricultural sector, please don't hesitate to get in touch. I'm available at your earliest convenience. I may take a little while to respond to emails sometimes because of work, but then I will definitely respond. You can guarantee that.
Perfect. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Neville, for being here. And I hope we'll
Thank you
be
so much.
speaking and seeing a lot from you soon. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very
Yeah.
happy to have you as part of the AfroLink network and family. Thanks a lot.
Oh, thank you so much, Sophia. And I'm really honored to be there and to be a part of the AfroLink family. Thank you very much, eh? And
Thank
thank you
you.
very much to our guests for watching. All right, thanks. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye bye.